Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say. Um, I'm Jamie Green, as most of you know, president and founder of A Mother's Cry. I'm coming to you today with a Mother's Cry response to several things. Um, First of all, I shared a video on my personal page a few minutes ago with a warning that it is quite disturbing. And in this video, we see a young man who is incarcerated. Um, the information I was given is that he's an inmate at Ware State Prison in Waycross, Georgia. I have made several attempts. I was tagged in the video because of the advocacy work that I do on behalf of families impacted by incarceration. And so I have done several things. I've tried to reach out to the person who originally posted the video, which, according to the post, she is a family member, and that is her nephew that is being beaten in the video. And I've gotten no response. I have called the Ware State Prison multiple times, and no one even answers the phone. Someone sent me a phone number for a gentleman who is a captain at a jail there in Georgia. He's the jail administrator there in Georgia, and I did speak with him. He was very kind, but his response is that number one, there's nothing he can do about it because it's not his facility. He was not really sure why anybody would give me his number because he absolutely can do nothing about what goes on in state prisons. He also said that he personally knows uh, what it's like to not be able to reach anybody at that particular prison. He said he himself has tried sometimes for hours to finally get someone to pick up the phone. Um, his response, of course, is that most all prison staff members these days is that they are short staffed. Um, and I can understand that. But at the same time, there should always be someone available to answer the phone. As some of you know, and I keep saying this and I'm going to keep saying it, I have been advocating for um, a family liaison in these state prisons that would be available to be like a bridge of communication between the prison staff, administrators, or what have you, and the family members. I have reached out multiple times to Maryland elected officials regarding having this in place in Maryland state prisons, and of course, not getting um, responses other than we'll forward your uh, email to someone else. But this particular video is very disturbing to me for several reasons. Um, and there have been some comments made about the young man's charges, the one that's on the floor with the rope around his neck being drug around like an animal. And the being beaten in the head with the stick and what have you. And I have several questions about that. Like, first of all, why is where is the staff? Okay, that's the first question. Um, there seems to be no staff there in that room at all. Uh, Secondly, who's recording this video? And when I spoke with the gentleman at the captain that I spoke to this morning at the jail there, he said, I don't know about this particular video that you're referring to, ma'am. He said, but several videos that have been released from that prison onto social media, they are true. He said that atmosphere is conducive for that type of behavior due to staff shortage and what have you, which is disturbing to me because, again, this is something that we see often. This is not an isolated incident. It is just what I'm focusing on today. He also informed me that Ware State Prison has its own investigation division, and that if I could ever get anyone on the phone, that is who I would need to speak with. So we pretty much know that's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to keep trying to reach out. As I said, I've reached out to the person who first posted the video, trying to get more information about the young man that, is being beaten in the video, but I've gotten no response from that person. And as I said, I'm not getting any answer at the prison. So I'm not really sure what my next step will be, but I'm not just going to ignore what I've seen. There were some comments made on the video about the young man's charges and what he was convicted of. And I'm not minimizing whatever his charges are. I don't know what they were. But he was charged, he was convicted, and he was sentenced to prison. That does not mean that he does not deserve to be treated like a human being, not drug around by a rope, not beaten and kicked while other people stand around and watch, and somebody records it. So these are concerns that I have. And as an advocate for social justice and for the impact of incarceration on families, I absolutely could not see this video and pretend I didn't see it. I was talking to a young lady yesterday. She was saying that she had been talking to some people about it, and it's like a lot of people are willing to turn a blind eye to it. And I reminded her, as I remind people so often, a lot of times people don't become concerned about things until it impacts them personally, until it's their family member, until it's someone that they know and love that's being attacked and abused. Then all of a sudden, it's a major issue and they want it addressed. But as an advocate, I cannot be selective about who I speak out for and what I bring attention to. This is National Suicide Prevention Month. And the studies that I've read and situations that I've been informed about and that I know about personally, it says that the rate of inmate suicides are far higher than the national averages, and even higher still for special populations like juveniles and the LGBTI inmates. We all know that the mental health care of incarcerated persons is minimal at best. And when you think about it, you're living in an extremely hostile environment 24/7. And however you got there, whatever you did or didn't do to put you there, that does not mean that you don't deserve to be treated like a human being. And in the years that my son has been incarcerated, he shared stories with me of actually walking past cells and seeing where an incarcerated person has cut their wrists or hung themselves with a sheet from their top bunk, or there was not too many months ago a situation where a inmate jumped, I think, from the 3rd tier right after screaming, "I can't take it anymore." We don't hear much about these stories in our newspapers, locally or nationally, but these things happen. There's very little outside support for many of these inmates. They don't have family support. Many of their family members have written them off. And people on the outside have pretty much washed their hands of them. When you say to a 25-year-old, I'm giving you 50 years in prison, you're basically saying to that person, you're useless, you're worthless, and we don't want you in our society anymore. So some people cannot live with that type of rejection. And again, I say, because I hear people all the time saying, well, if they hadn't committed a crime, they wouldn't be there. Number one, there are a lot of innocent people in prison. And number two, regardless, they're still a human being until they die. And so for many of them, there's a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. They don't feel that the people inside care. Recently, I made a post about the location where my son is, that they had not had showers for several days. They had actually not been outside of their cells for several days. And so, of course, they hadn't had showers. And so one of the young men said he made a comment to one of the staff members, the COs, about, them getting showers. And the CO's response was, "I don't really care because I'm out here." And unfortunately, there are many people that have that attitude that work in these state prisons. I know that there are good people that work in the state prisons. I know that there are good police officers. There are good judges. There are good people with good hearts in our criminal justice system. Unfortunately, there are far too many that are just plain evil. And they see working in a prison system environment as an opportunity to spread their venom on people that they deem to be helpless and incapable of fighting back. So there's a lot of depression there, and a feeling of being inferior to others. There's physical and mental abuse taking place by staff members and by fellow inmates. There's lots of abuse by those who are supposed to be in authority. As an advocate for inmates and for the families of inmates, I don't understand why the administration in these state prisons would not go out of their way to create a safer environment, both for the inmates and for themselves. Historically and recently, we've seen examples of riots that break out in these prisons because just overall, the incarcerated persons get tired of some of the treatment that they're receiving. And if there is one guard to maybe 100 inmates, and I'm just throwing that number out there, it would seem to me that you would want to treat these people with some kind of respect, so that there is compassionate and considerate interaction on both sides, so that there is a safer environment. So I'm coming to you today. Number one, I wanted to share that video. It is posted on my page for those of you who like to see it. And to remind you again that this is National Suicide Prevention Month. And there are suicides in our Department of Correction that can be avoided and should be avoided. But first, we have to see these people as humans with basic human needs and basic human rights. And these human rights should not be violated by staff or fellow inmates. I know we can't stop it altogether, but there is something that can be done and should be done. And so this month, if you have a loved one or a friend, a member, a friend, somebody you know who is an incarcerated person, I recommend that you reach out to them. Maybe you haven't reached out to them in a while for whatever reason. I know some family members just get sick of individuals who keep going back and forth in prison. I totally understand that. But I think this month it would be good for you to just reach out, send a letter, just a paragraph, to let them know they are not forgotten. They need to hear that periodically. One of the greatest heart-touching things that I hear when I talk to those who are incarcerated, not just my son, but other sons of my heart, I often hear is, nobody cares. My family has forgotten all about me. It's like I don't even exist. And I remember these words when my son was first incarcerated. The very first phone call that I got from him, he said to me, "Mom, please don't abandon me." And in my heart, I cried. It broke me that he would even think that I could abandon him. But I understand what he was saying, because so many of them are abandoned and forgotten when they enter into the prison system. So today, I am admonishing you, if you know someone who's in prison, family or friend, whatever the case may be, reach out, write a letter, send a card, something. Well, you can't even send cards anymore. Greeting cards are not even allowed. So much control. But anyway, send a letter. Let them know that they are not forgotten. We are trying to avoid as many suicides as we can, even in the Department of Corrections. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for those of you who will watch this video in replay. Thank you for supporting Let's Talk Destiny and A Mother's Cry. There's so much work to be done. So I appreciate your support. You can support sometimes, and I ask people for donations to help support some of the things we're trying to do. Some people, automatically get attitudes when you ask about money. But you can support by sharing the videos. You can support by spreading the message of what we're trying to do. I was informed about this video of this young man in Ware State Prison because someone who watches my videos and who hears my heart with regard to inmate advocacy and dealing with mothers and families impacted by incarceration, tagged me in the video. And they said, "I see the work and the ministry that you're doing. And I knew if anybody would try to do something, it would be you." That made my day. So I'm here trying to do the best I can with what I have. And I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Have a great day.